Welcome to today's presentation. This is our third workshop in our first year FYP series, something we've just launched this year. My name is Allison Blatz, and I am the Assistant Director of Student Engagement here at the Rose Hill Career Center. And we also have Ian with us here today. So if you want to introduce yourself, you could feel free.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Tierney. I'm one of the International Student Advisors at the Office for International Services.
Awesome. And today, Ian and I are pairing up to talk about, obviously, career readiness for international students. So how to prepare for internships that you can get here and careers beyond Fordham as an international student. So obviously the job search or internship search is something that is difficult for everyone, but it's especially, a little bit more difficult when you're trying to figure out how to approach the application process in a new country and the interviewing process in a new country and how to navigate different things with the visas and sponsorships that you're working with. So hopefully we'll give you some good tips and some helpful insight. And with that, I will start sharing my screen for our presentations. Let's see. We're going to start with talking about where you can actually start on your job search. And the best place to start is with connecting with us, the Career Center. So when you connect with the Career Center, we support international students through various resources and services. So we have a ton of resources, services, and programs here at the Career Center that can help support you in identifying your career interests. So if you have yet to decide on a major, or if you've already decided on a major, but you don't know exactly what you want to do with that yet, we're here to help guide you in that direction. We could help you build your job search skills. So obviously that starts with building out basic job application materials like resumes and cover letters. We offer, and I will show you how to do this on Handshake, one-on-one career counseling appointments. So you can book an appointment with anyone in our staff. All of our staff members serve as career counselors. Just admitting people here. So all of our staff members serve as career counselors, and we could help you craft your first resume, craft a cover letter, and also target employers. And finally, we could help you create a strategic job search plan, which as an international student looks a little bit different than other students, because obviously you have to work with finding employers who could hopefully sponsor you post-graduation and who accept CPT. So I want to first start by switching over to Handshake here to show you how you could kind of use Handshake. So I would say the way that we conduct most of our services here at the Career Center is through Handshake. So obviously you all have a Handshake if you registered for today's event, but a way that you can make an appointment with us if you wanted to review something like a resume or cover letter, or if you had an interview coming up and you wanted to do a mock interview or get interviewing tips, you could go to appointments here. So Career Center appointments, schedule a new appointment, and then you could choose the category that you were interested in covering. So let's say I wanted to attend our fall internship fair, which we have it, I think next week, October 4th. I would say career fair prep. At least people in person here, I'm guessing, are Rose Hill undergraduate students, and you could see different appointment available times for our staff. So that's how you can make an appointment with us if you wanted to kind of go through searching for or getting support in, developing your job search skills. We also have different events. So I think a really big part of creating a strategic job search plan, especially as an international student, is networking. So here at the Career Center, we have things like coffee chats, which is where you will sign up to meet with an employer in one of our interview rooms here. So everyone who's on Zoom, we have beautiful glass interview rooms with computer screens just for two. So you could have a coffee chat with an employer where you go over your resume, they'll tell you about the company, and then that could lead to a future internship opportunity. We also host employer info sessions here. So you could a company will come to our campus, they'll give information about their company, their mission, their values, their projects, their recruiting timelines. And you could also have conversations with them after the info session to see whether or not they would sponsor you in a job post-graduation or what type of internships and experiences they have for international students. So that's a place to find all of our events here on Handshake. But I don't want to dive too deep in because obviously we want to talk about how to get your job application materials, in tip-top shape. I think the most important thing in learning how to hone this as a freshman is learning how to articulate your career readiness competencies. So career readiness competencies are competencies that are applicable to any field, no matter what it is. If you're a STEM major, if you're in the creative field, if you're a business major, these are all skills that you will need for any industry. So as you can see here, self-development, communication, critical thinking. Most of these skills are skills that you're going to gain going to a liberal arts college like Fordham, where you have a core curriculum. But working with the Career Center to make sure that you are listing these skills on your resume and getting into the specifics of them and getting in depth with them as best as you can is going to help you put a really good step forward as you start to interact with employers and go on the internship search. So actually, I got this from a company, or not a company, an organization called NACE. So it's the National Association of Colleges and Employers. They go a little bit more in depth here about what career readiness competencies are and how you could develop them, how you could list them on your resume. So I would definitely suggest taking a scroll through here in your free time. And there are a ton of resources going back to Handshake, via Handshake, that could help you in creating different job application materials. So all of these resources are accessible via the Career Center. Going to resources. And the first one I'm going to show you all is our shared drive. So if anyone here has come to any of our other first year FYP events, I've seen a few nods from you. I like very reaffirming nods. So that may mean that you have seen some of these resources before. But one of the resources we have here is our shared drive. So if you go to this link, it'll take you to all of these folders. And we have folders such as sample resume templates. So if you're struggling to figure out how to get started on writing a resume, we have all these templates here from first year students all the way to senior year students, Gabelli School of Business, technical resumes. And generally, these are resume formats that are friendly for every company. So you could kind of get inspiration from those. You could see here, we have different infographics and tip sheets in terms of strong action verbs that you can use to form your content bullets and how you can make really strong content bullets. So it's definitely something to keep in mind and take advantage of. We also have a sample cover letter template you could take advantage of. So a lot of the jobs you're going to be applying for are going to require usually a resume, and then it'll say optional cover letter. Most of the time, the cover letter is required, even if it says optional on an internship job description. So this is a template that gives you a paragraph by paragraph breakdown of what to include in each paragraph. And they also have a real life example of what that would look like in action. So this is the shared drive, and this is where you could find sample resume templates and sample cover letter templates. I would suggest exploring these and giving it a go at creating a resume or cover letter before you make an appointment with one of us at the Career Center, just so that we have some content to work with you. But that is one of the many resources we have. Another one we have that I think is really helpful for first year students, especially because usually, unfortunately, when you're on the internship search, a lot of employers tend to prioritize upperclassmen resumes and profiles. Not all the time, but it is hard to find an internship sometimes, especially as a first semester freshman. And a way that you could get great practical experience without having to compete for an internship is through a platform called Forage. So Forage is a virtual work experience platform. And basically, they have all these big name companies. So as you can see, they have JP Morgan, they have Walmart, Lululemon. And what you would do is you could take this course. It's completely free through Handshake and completely self-paced. So as you can see, this course here is 5 hours. If you wanted to take the course an hour this week, 4 hours next week, you can divvy it up in that way. And what you do is you're assigned a virtual hiring manager, basically a hiring manager who speaks to a screen like it's a YouTube video. They'll give you a task. You'll complete the task. They would give you a grade, and then you complete the course. And what you could do is that you could actually put this course as a certification on your resume. And that looks really great because, one, if you were applying for a job at JP Morgan or at one of their competitors, they would see that on your resume. But two, it gives you practical experience. So you could figure out, is what I'm pursuing right now as an undergraduate actually what I'm going to want to do in the long term? This gives you actually the stage to be able to perform that and see if you actually really like that. So this is one for software engineering. They have a ton marketing, consulting. I mean, you could kind of scroll through, I have this in front of me here, but you could scroll through all of them here and see the many things that you could work with. So I would, yes, absolutely.
Sorry, I
No,
was
it's okay.
wondering in terms of like how useful it is and how the people, like the employer view it, how valuable it is to be on your resume.
How valuable something like this is? Yeah, so I think statistically, for anyone on Zoom who didn't hear, the question was, how valuable is it actually to have an experience like Forge on your resume? I believe the statistic is that employers are 5 times more likely to hire you versus another candidate if you have this experience on your resume. And a lot of that is because of the fact that it pulls, when you have this on your resume, it pulls on keywords. So is anyone here, this is going a little off topic, but is anyone here familiar with an applicant tracking system or ATS? You are, okay. Anyone else? Okay. So an applicant tracking system or an ATS is something that most companies use these days. It's a computer software program that automates the hiring process. So I think it's something like 98% of Fortune 500 companies use them. And I'm going to say like probably about 85% of companies use them as a whole. And basically when you submit your resume via Handshake, via LinkedIn, the ATS will parse your resume for keywords and phrases that align with the job description. And we'll see if there's an alignment, then it goes to the eyes of a recruiter. So for example, if you had something on Forage, if you took a course on Forage, like the JP Morgan course, and you had practical skills that you gained from that aligned with, you know, that one was software engineering. So a software engineering job description, it would be an ATS friendly resume. So it's just something to keep in mind. Not to go on too far of a sidetrack there, but it is valuable on your resume for that reason. So anyways, Forage is definitely, yeah, of course. Forage is one. And I saw just in the comments, are there any work visa restrictions on Forage? There are not any work visa restrictions on Forage. It's accessible to all students. And I know that this same student had the question of where can I access the shared drive folder? And I am going to show it again just because we had a few new people join in person. So you're going to go to Career Center, Resources, and then you're going to type in share drive. And from there, you will get the link to access all of those folders. So those are just a few resources on Handshake. I'm going to get into going global after Ian gives his little presentation within this presentation. But these are just some things to keep in mind as you're kind of working on your job search and building out your job application materials. Which on the topic, well, actually, I'll go over here to Handshake first. So one other thing I'll show you on Handshake before I go back into the presentation is how you could actually look for jobs that accept students with, you know, certain work authorizations. So if you go here, let's say we're looking for, or you know what, I'll keep it very broad for now. What we'll do is we will filter this by location. So if you're looking for a job on Handshake, you go to jobs. We could filter. So obviously we're in New York. Let's give ourselves like a 20-mile radius here. Maybe 15. Let's see what it allows. Okay, there's close enough. You could filter this further. So once you complete your Handshake profile, which I definitely suggest doing, creating a full Handshake profile, recruiters and hiring managers are 5 times more likely to look at your profile if you have it fully completed. So definitely do that. But if you populate your major within your profile, you could actually see what internships are trending within your major. So definitely suggest that. You could say internship, part-time. And if you go to all filters here, you could scroll down and let me see, where is it? Work authorization. So jobs that do not require US work authorization, jobs that are eligible for US visa sponsorship, jobs that are open to candidates with CPT and OPT. So let's just click all of those, show results, and you'll see there are a plethora of options here, and you could even keep going on. I don't know how many pages, 76 pages. So there are many options for you to choose from. And again, we could even go down further in this. I didn't write anything in the top, but let's write copywriting intern, just as an example. And as you can see, still a ton of options that you're working with. So that is how you would source for how to find jobs and internships that do not require US work authorization via Handshake. And this would follow a very similar version on LinkedIn. You would just filter it in that way. But I think another very big part of the job search when you are an international student, in addition to putting out applications, is networking. So networking is one of the most effective ways that people find out about positions and get hired. I think it's something like 85% of jobs are secured through networking. Jobs sometimes don't even necessarily have to go to a job platform. If an employer knows of a candidate within their network, they could hire them before they even post a job. So networking is very important to you. And something that we have here at Fordham is the Fordham Mentorship Network. So you could Google the Fordham Mentorship Network. I'm pretty sure you could find it on your Fordham websites as well. It also goes by People Grove. So just keep that in mind. If you see People Grove on the Fordham website, that is also the Fordham Mentorship Network. I have hyperlinked it here. And I also want to say I will be sharing this presentation after our workshop today. So you'll have access to these hyperlinks. But once you register for the Fordham Mentorship Network, which I could just show you right now, is a virtual network of a ton of our alum who have signed up to be a part of this. What you could do is you could indicate your topic of interest, industries of interest. You could say if you're an international student or not. And if you go to topics here, you'll see that one is studying or working abroad. So we could click on that, hit apply. And let's say that you're someone who's on the pre-law track, who's looking for advice on studying or working abroad. So let's see, I think legal is just in mind because I was helping two students earlier who are on the pre-law track. But okay, so legal and law enforcement. So those are the two filters I have. So these are all people who are in the legal or law enforcement sectors who also could give you advice on, studying or working abroad. Now, something important to note that some of these students are US students who will give you advice on how to find work elsewhere other than the US, but you're also going to find people who are not from the US and who have come here and have tips for that. So what you could do, let's just say I see Michael here. He could help you with resume and CVs and cover letters. So you could also get resume and CV feedback from these people. You could see more about, let's see if it loads, his profile here. So you got his BA from Xavier University, an MA from Fordham, and this is a little bit about him. And you could say something along the lines of, "Hi, Michael. It's great to connect with a fellow RAM. I saw that you were open to giving students advice on their resumes and to give them tips on how to find work abroad. You could explain a little bit about your situation as an international student, where you're from, type of visa you're on, etc. Would love to connect with you for a phone call or coffee chat if Michael is in the area, and see what he says. And again, you have access to a ton of people here. You're not limited to messages, so you could connect with as many people as you want. And these were just two filters that I put on. You could add more filters if you'd like, or remove some filters, but it's definitely a good resource to use for networking purposes. Are there any questions from anyone on that here in person or via Zoom? I see we have one. Oh, okay, that was just someone from before. Any other questions? Okay. Beautiful. So that is networking. And then I can actually probably, oh no, I can't get back to the slideshow because we're going to have we have more links to go through. And I think the next most important thing, so starting your job search, come to the Career Center. We'll show you all these resources. We could help you parse through them and make sense of them because I know it is very overwhelming when you find them all on Handshake. But the next most important thing is to research international student specific job search boards. So you're going to be able, obviously, to find things on Handshake and LinkedIn, but these are also websites that you can rely on. So ones like Opt Nation or OPT Nation. So you'll see here on OPT Nation, they have top companies hiring for OPT jobs in 2022 and 2023. And so these are all companies that you could keep in mind. And when you're starting your internship or job search, make sure that you're kind of filing out for these companies on Handshake, seeing if PBF Energy is on Handshake or seeing if United Natural Foods is there and what openings they have. Because these are people who could also sponsor you or who also are open to hiring you post-graduation. You could have a continuous relationship with them. So that's something like OPT Nation. We also have, I won't go through all of these, but international student jobs is a really helpful one. So you could look for specific jobs here. So job title of internship. Obviously, we are in New York. And this is within 10 miles. If we want to do within 25 miles, we can. And you'll see internships that are, international student friendly as well. And if you scroll all the way down here, they tell you other resources they provide. So resume writing, how to create a resume that is friendly to US employers. Interview preparation, if you feel like you're not completely comfortable with the US interview process, they have different resources and skills in addition to the resources that we provide on Handshake that could be helpful to you. And then country work guides. I'll go into, like I said, we have a resource Going Global that has different country work guides as well. But let's say that once you graduate from Fordham, you want to go and work in another country that's not your home country. A website like internationalstudents.com, they also have country work guides. So they could show you in, let's just say, Australia, just picking one randomly, what the resume application material, what application materials you would need there, what the interview process is like there, how you can get started on getting prepared now. And actually, let me see if I can click on this and if they have those guides available. So they have work in the USA, work in UK. Let's do work in Europe since there are many countries across Europe here. So they have just a general list of tips. I think Going Global could probably be more helpful for you, and we'll get into that later. But those are just a few websites that you could keep in mind. And again, I'll be sending this presentation to you all later, so you could look into them. And the third most important thing, and this is where I'll finally share, not share my screen that way, share this screen here, is getting in touch with the Office of International Students about specific questions regarding visas and how to acquire work authorization. And that is where I will finally pass it over to Ian, who could carry the torch on this one. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so just so you guys know, all this information is geared towards F1 students. So students who are here on an F1 visa. If you're on a different visa type, there's different options. They're all limited. It's kind of by design that you're constrained in terms of the work you can do, because the idea is that your visa is here to support your studies. Obviously, you're getting a degree probably because you want to get a job. So I understand how students feel kind of boxed in, but it is the way the US government designs the visa rules. But as an F1 visa holder, you have three basic options for obtaining work authorization with your F1. So the first is on campus. You're automatically allowed to work for Fordham from the moment you get here until the moment your program ends. So you can work in any sort of student support service as a student worker, basically. And again, that's automatically something you're authorized to do. I think the federal rules limit you to 20 hours per week while school's in session, but Fordham's own rule supersedes that, and theirs is 19 hours. So that's something that you have as an option to immediately. The other one is called Curricular Practical Training, or CPT, which you might have heard about. This is typically used by students who are in their program and they want to do an internship or some type of work concurrently with their studies. It's very academic focused. It has to be connected to your studies. The way we determine its connection is if you will receive academic credit for the work experience. So you have to approach your class dean or your academic advisor or your assistant dean, and depending on which program you're in, it could be a different title. But basically, they have to give you some amount of academic credit for the work experience. That's how you get CPT. And CPT is just noted on your I-20. It's in the work authorization section. It'll be for a specific company for a specific period of time. You're eligible for CPT after you've been enrolled full-time for 2 consecutive semesters. So if you're a freshman now, it's your first semester, you'd be eligible for CPT in the summer. If you're a sophomore, you're eligible now, assuming you've been enrolled in person full-time for the last 2 semesters before now. Okay, that's kind of how it works. And then the final one is optional practical training, or OPT. This is usually reserved for after you finish your program. So it's a 12-month period of work authorization. You keep your F1 visa, your F1 status, you're still an F1, but you have a 12-month period of work authorization. You can work anywhere you want as long as the role you're working in is related to what you studied. And it's much less restrictive than CPT, which is specified to one employer that you're authorized for. OPT is a general work authorization. Anyone who finishes their program is eligible. The same enrollment requirement applies as it does for CPT. So you're eligible for OPT after you've been enrolled for 2 consecutive semesters. So if you're going to take like a leave of absence, you have to be very careful with the timing to make sure you have enough time after the leave of absence to gain eligibility, because you would lose, the clock would start over basically if you took a leave. So you want to make sure you have enough time to get that eligibility. And then certain degrees are eligible for a 24-month extension of the OPT called the STEM extension. So really, you can really utilize the F1 to get a lot of work experience before you have to worry about transitioning to another visa type like H-1B, which is more permanent. But this is essentially the 3 options that you have as an F1 for the work. There's just a couple notes at the bottom. If you know, all these, the whole process for all of these are, it's all virtual, it's all online. We have a website, fordham.edu/OIS. You'll see a button for work authorizations where we talk about all of this in more detail, and it'll give you specific instructions for if you're working on campus, if you're working CPT, or if you want to apply for OPT. You need a work authorization to be eligible for a social security number. Otherwise, they won't give it to you. So the I-20 with the CPT or the OPT is enough to get a social security number itself. If you're working on campus and you need social security, we have a special letter that we give you to go to your appointment. But this is kind of the bird's eye view of what your options are. And then I will stick around for questions as it relates to, you know, I know people get nervous when they get asked about your work authorization, if you need sponsorship, if you have indefinite sponsorship. Companies will ask all these kinds of questions to try and box you in, and basically you can get a sense of how willing they are to hire international students based on how specific or vague those questions are. And so we can talk a little bit more about that or how you answer those. But for now, I'll hand it back to Allie.
Sure. Thank you,
That's it.
Ian.
I have some questions.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we've got a question here.
So for the CPT, how long is the period that you can actually do the CPT for? Because I know for OPT, it's 12 months.
Yeah, so there's no limit on CPT. The limit is that you have to get credit. So if you want to do it in the fall, you have a credit in the fall. If you want to continue into the spring, you need a new credit for the spring. Summer, it's a little less strict, so you could maybe use a spring credit to keep working in the summer, but there's no actual limitation in terms of the amount of CPT you can do.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you accumulate 12 months of full-time CPT or more, then you are no longer eligible for OPT at the end of your degree. Okay, so if OPT is something you want to pursue, you have to make sure you stay underneath 12 months of full-time CPT authorization. And the full-time limit is anything over 20 hours a week, which is a pretty low limit for full-time, but that's what they consider full-time.
I also have another question. So is there any support for international students with getting the SSN? Because I've heard from my upperclassmen that it's quite hard to get a job at Fordham, like inside of the university. And I've heard that in the University of Rochester, they have like this basically job that like the students just come in a room and sit for like certain hours, and school kind of say, oh yeah, they did the work, and then they can get the SSN, especially because I'm doing finance. So
well, okay, that sounds sketchy, to be
yeah.
frank. But so basically, to get an SSN, you don't, first of all, the SSN is something a lot of people are concerned about. And the foundation of the SSN is to tax you. That's the only reason it exists.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need an SSN to open a bank account, to get a credit card, to sign a lease, even though a lot of the default applications will ask you for it because people just assume you have it. So you only need an SSN if you are going to be paid at a legitimate employer.
Right.
So if you're working on campus, you can get an SSN. If you have a CPT or an OPT, you can get an SSN, and we'll give you all the, documents and guidance you need for that. If you don't have a work authorization, then you're not eligible for the SSN.
Okay. Yeah, no, the SSN is just to sign up for like basically a trading platform most of the part. So,
Yeah, that's another thing though, that you have to be careful, because if you're trading and you're making money off your trades,
right,
it could be considered income. And then they would want to know what's your work authorization for that income. Some people who have more advanced sort of financial systems or things, they apply for an ITIN instead. You might want to look into that. It's very uncommon, but this is kind of like a workaround. It's a taxpayer identification number, which sometimes people in that circumstance utilize instead.
oh yeah, I did check the ITIN, but the platform just requires SSN.
Okay, yeah, you might want to be careful. If you want to schedule something with us to kind of look at it
Right.
and help you, you feel free to do that. That's
Right.
another way, by the way. If you can write to us at ois@fordham.edu, you can write to me directly, etierney11@fordham.edu. Or if you just search my name, it should appear. But also on our website, you can find, there's a section to make an appointment with someone,
Okay.
Zoom or in person,
Okay,
as you
thank
prefer. Yep. Any other question for now?
We do have a question from Sardan.
Hi.
Do you want to come off of mute, or is the question you have the same one that's in the chat box?
Hi, do you mean me?
Yes.
I'm okay. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm like in a kind of noisy place. Sorry.
No,
I feel
we
like
can
I
hear you
should turn my
fine.
camera on. Okay. I have two questions. First is that I see that I wrote that I don't think I wrote it, but that I'm interested in interning the summer after my freshman year, which would be a year from now approximately. But a lot of the recruitment I see on Handshake and LinkedIn is especially for sophomores, like those are the programs, sophomore and juniors. So could I even be able, I know it's really unlikely that I get the job, but can I even apply to sophomore jobs? I'm just asking because I've never like actually gone through the process and I don't know if it's even possible. So should I even try that, or that's not recommended? And then my second question was on the fact that I'm a econ major, and that's in Fordham certified as STEM. So one of the reasons I chose that rather than a business major, even if I'm interested in going into finance, is because it gives me the OPT extension. In your experience of maybe people how plausible is it for me to get the same like jobs as business majors? Like will my resume be overlooked because I'm not in Gabelli, or I'm not a traditional business major, or do I still have a chance as an econ major? That was a lot. Sorry.
No worries. Those are both good questions. So Ian, I have a quick question for you. If she is a freshman and wants to apply for a summer role through CPT, that is a yes, because she's completed 2 consecutive semesters.
You'd be eligible, yeah, as long as you're getting credit. That, I mean, in the case of starting in the summer, you would have to be registered for some credit in the summer. So that might be a little bit, I mean, not challenging. It happens. It's very common, but yes, you'd be eligible in the summer.
And one thing, what is I'm sorry if I missed it. So your major is economics, and what would you be kind of targeting in terms of a job, like accounting and finance firm, or?
I thought markets first, sales and trading. I'm not sure on investment banking. And then because I'm not even sure like I want to go into finance long term, I would be even interested in HR within like in banking or even consulting. But I know that doesn't go quite with my major. So yeah, I don't know if, because I'm not so sure in like the career, it's very overwhelming. There are so many options, and I don't know if I have to like, if I want to go into finance as an econ major, I have to be very specific from freshman year into what like internships I'm gonna be taking. I'm definitely gonna be taking the 4H courses. So I don't know if I should really shoot for just finance, but I'm not sure I want to do that long term, so. I don't know
Sure.
if that answers the question.
No, it does, yeah, because what I was going to say is, so if you're looking to do, like, be a summer analyst, for example, or be a finance intern at one of these large accounting and finance firms, their recruiting process is happening right now, so they would recruit now for people for the summer. So that would be something that you would get on now. However, what I'll say is I usually see most success with sophomores. So a sophomore, so next fall, you would apply for like a summer analyst position during that semester for your summer of your sophomore year leading into your junior year. However, you said you're also interested in potentially doing human resources or potentially doing something else that's not directly related to finance, but still within the finance realm. Those internships are open now and also in the spring. So you would still have time to, apply for those. But I would say if you're looking to go into the finance realm specifically, that's something that you would want to work on an application for now. And you do
Okay.
have, as Ian was saying, the eligibility to do that with CPT. And I think, oh, sorry, feel free to jump in.
No. Would you say it would set me back if I did something that was non-related to finance for like the upcoming summer, and then as a sophomore, like applying as a sophomore to the finance programs, would it look bad in my resume to have something that was not related, or experience is valuable in of itself?
I think experience is valuable in and of itself. And in the meantime, while you're on campus, get involved with, finance related clubs. I know that there is an investment banking club on campus. There are quite a few other clubs. So get your practical experience there. See what internship you could find in the summer. If it's directly related to finance, great. If not, that's okay. Just get your foot in the door. And then if you find a summer opportunity that's really interesting next year, that would be great. But I think I just remembered the second part of your question, which was that you were worried because you're an econ major looking to potentially go into the finance world, and you're wondering, I've seen a lot of economics majors who have really thrived in the field, and you don't necessarily have to be in Gabelli in order to thrive in the finance industry. I would say it's just a matter of getting those skills under your belt that they're looking for, which may not be as direct as a Gabelli student who's getting them right in the classroom and who has other resources like the Personal and Professional Development Center through Gabelli. But if you're going out of your way to take courses on forage or get involved with clubs, you still have a very good shot of making it in finance. Yeah.
Thank you.
So not to worry.
Very helpful.
Of course, yes. Are there any other questions for myself or Ian while we're on this slide, or anything else to cover? Okay, great. In that case, let me see. We'll get to our last part. So the last thing I want to cover is obviously having a plan B. So if you graduate from Fordham and you're maybe not able to find an opportunity here, it's good to have other ideas in mind as to where you're going to go. So expanding your pool by even applying to a job in a country that's not your home country, but a third potential country is really helpful. And so one of those, or I'll say that's really helpful for that. And let me see. Yes. So this is actually, I could show you on Handshake so that you know how to access it here. But if you go to Career Center and you go to Going Global, you're going to find this site. And like I was saying before with internationalstudents.com, Going Global has different career guides for different countries. So let's go to country guide. You see they have the US here, but again, I think I mentioned Australia before, so let's just click on that one. What they have, so Going Global has consultants in each country who will create these career guides, and they're very well thought out. So they have job search resources, job search overview of how they approach the job search in Australia, on online job sites, remote and freelance work, how to get involved in nonprofit and NGOs. I mean, they have nearly everything in terms of a career guide. So if you are unsure if you want to work in the US post-graduation and you want to have a third option to think about, Going Global could be a good resource. They also have, as you can see here, H-1B and OPT opportunities on Going Global's website. So you could search, keyword, the company, and see what opportunities are available there. So Going Global is your last site that's going to be very helpful for you. We also put other platforms with global opportunities. I won't go through all of them, but definitely something to consider. And then the last thing just to keep in mind is to stay positive. I know it's really cheesy, but the internship and job search is difficult for everyone to navigate. Obviously, there are a few extra obstacles in your way, given that you're international students, but there is always a way through. And if you are proactive and start early, and connect with the Career Center, connect with the Office of International Students, you will be able to find a way, and we're going to be here to guide and support you along that. So that is the end of our presentation here. I know we answered a lot of questions in between, but I want to be able to answer any other final questions you all have, and I'll stop sharing my screen so we can see everyone on Zoom. See what you all have in mind. Yes.
I know there's like exchange, it's like similar to exchange program, basically you go abroad for 1 semester, usually in the second year, I think. So how is that something that's recommended to international students? I mean, they came from a different country, so is there, what benefits is there in terms of for international students?
Yeah, you're just to make sure you're not asking if international students can study abroad. You're just saying, what is the benefit of?
Is it recommended?
I mean, I would always recommend studying abroad because you're not in the same country when you're studying abroad, right? Like we have campuses in London and Granada. I was actually, I was an undergraduate student, not here at Rose Hill, but at Lincoln Center. I studied French in my undergraduate years. I went to France. So we don't have an exact France campus location as a part of Fordham, but they partner with different, schools and organizations in different countries to make that happen for students who want to go particular places. So I would say there's absolutely a benefit. I'm glad you mentioned that. Like you're all working with an advantage, having a multicultural perspective on your resume, which is not something that many domestic students have. But I think, adding that extra multicultural perspective experience of studying abroad could never hurt. And it'll be really fun. So why not give it a go?
So basically, in order to attain SSN, you first need a job offer letter, something like that.
The question was, to obtain an SSN, you need to have a job offer, just so that everyone knows.
Kind of, not exactly. You need to have work authorization. So to get CPT, you need a job offer to get CPT. You don't need a job offer to get OPT. So in theory, you could have approved OPT, and that's enough to get an SSN. Just having that. So it kind of depends on which scenario you're talking about.
For doing jobs on campus.
Yeah, so job on campus, we give you a specialized letter that's signed by whichever department is going to hire you, and then a letter from us that tells Social Security that, so and so has accepted a bona fide job offer on campus. They're our valid F1 student. Please help them get a Social Security card in that case.
Yeah.